you mentioned, I am new to the workforce development team. Pretty much I have a bunch of experience, dealing with veterans, but also dealing with youth as well. But I am trying to help individuals continue to stay active with adaptive sports, especially individuals who are amputees or have some type of lower extremity injury. So if y'all have anything or any questions regarding wanting to be involved in some type of adaptive sports, I'm your guy. I can point you in the right direction or recruit you myself. Uh, but outside of that, I'm looking forward to learning from y'all, hearing from y'all, and let's see where everybody goes from there. Nice to meet y'all.
Thank you so much, Pierre. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Pierre has extensive experience in working with veterans and youth within the disabled community. So we're happy to have him along board in our volunteer program. So our agenda for today. So I know last month we talked about a little bit about, our goals for 2025, specifically within our workforce development department. But today we're going to do more of a deeper dive on what that looks like. And then Paula, Chris, and Pierre will be on the call to kind of do a deeper dive into that conversation, ask a few questions. And then we'll leave it at the end for open forum and Q&A if anyone has any additional questions. So specifically, within our workforce development department, last year, as many of you know, was the first year that we actually started our employment council. And it was very enlightening, to be able to put a team together to really come with the common goal, right? And the goal is to hire, those with disabilities and those within the limb loss and limb difference community. And we're looking to really elevate that in 2025. So specifically, our department, has a goal of trying to increase our hiring for those, adults, veterans, and youth with limb loss and limb difference here at the Amputee Coalition that is registered with our workforce development program. One of the ways that we hope that you guys could be involved in that process is through, your organizations, as far as any openings that you may have specifically for internships, job opportunities, whether that's part-time jobs, full-time jobs, temp jobs. We would love, for you guys to share those opportunities with us. The goal for us is to really be able to have 1 to 2 job opportunities available specifically from our employment council members per quarter that we're able to share out with our workforce development participants. As you all know, we're a nationwide organization. So, pretty much any internships or job opportunities nationwide that you guys are able to provide, we would be able to match on our end, the candidate that would best be able to fit those job positions and those needs. In addition to any type of internships and job opportunities, we're also looking for folks to be able to host webinar opportunities. So specifically, we're looking to host at least 3 webinars per quarter. So again, this will be the opportunity for you guys to really be able to showcase any resources and services that you guys have specifically within your organizations, as well, as the missions of continuing the hiring for those with limb loss and limb difference and those with disabilities as a whole. And essentially, when we're looking at that, and a lot of you probably already heard from me through email individually to set up meetings. If not, keep an eye out for my email. I'll definitely be in touch within the coming weeks. But want to meet with you one-on-one to just really talk about what that looks like, right? As far as like internships for our youth participants as well as our adult and veterans. What we hope to do is every quarter, scheduling a quarterly assessment with each of you and really talking about, hey, what strides did we make? Do we hire individuals this quarter? If not, what could we do differently? Is there any other opportunities that we could look at that might work best, right? So for example, Julie, for example, at Walgreens, right? We talk about how maybe there's 5 opportunities that you guys have openings right now for in the California area, right? And then we discussed within the next 3 months, okay, how do we find that right candidate to fill those job positions? And then at the end of the quarter, us coming together to really talk about some things that worked well. And maybe California, we didn't see a lot of, applicants that were interested, particularly in this certain job position in California. Maybe we start to look at the Northeast. So I think it's a great plan for us moving forward, specifically for our department, as well as for you guys, right? Everyone on the call here has that mission and goal of, hiring those with disabilities, hiring those with limb loss and limb difference. And that's a critical goal for us as well. How could we get our participants that we know that are trained and went through our training, that went through a resume process, that's on our job board platform, and they're wanting to work, and how could we place them in those positions? And I think this will be a great process moving forward in doing so. I know a lot of you guys also mentioned last meeting that you would like to see maybe at the beginning of the meetings, maybe take a 5 or 10 minutes where we have one employer per month talking about, updates on the different resources and services that their companies are doing. And I think that's very, very important. And I think it's a great idea. So you'll also be getting an email from me as well. If there's any companies that are interested in going first, just let me know. If not, I'll send an email out to see who would be interested in taking that time out for each of our meetings for the rest of the year. Just kind of give an overview of what you guys do and what you guys are up to. Paula, any comments or anything more in detail we should touch upon, or Pierre or Chris?
I think I have more commentary to plant some food for thought in your heads, I guess. The first thing I want to do, though, is Mariana, are you in the LA area? And if so, or if you have people in the LA area, one, our prayers and thoughts go out. And two, are you safe? I'm assuming you are since you're on the call.
Yes, I live more east of the downtown area, so my area is safe, but I know have some coworkers that have been affected, and
Okay.
it's
If
pretty
everybody
crazy out there.
Yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, a great deal of LA, Malibu, Palisade, and such are literally burning to the ground, and the firefighters can't get to them, nor can they do much in trying to curtail it because of the high winds and other things. So please keep them in your good thoughts. On the topic of employment, if you can start culling a laundry list, I guess is what I would call it, of not so much what can we do for you to start with, and that sounds kind of odd, but for us to help you, we have to know what you need, where your goals are, what venues are you looking at to find your entry level all the way up to your senior level candidates? What is your anticipated overall hires for the year? And I know that's a very fluid number, all right? But of that number, what is your anticipated hiring of individuals with disabilities, especially those in the limb loss, limb difference community? But overall as well. If you don't meet those milestones, so most companies, well, I'm going to throw out very, very random numbers, right? So in the first quarter, you're going to hire 15 people. And of that 15, you're hoping of a 1% hire in that community. That's very low, by the way. I think it should be higher, but we'll use random numbers, all right? That means that you should have 1 to 2 hires. If you're not meeting that milestone, if you can share without sharing names or company proprietary information, why didn't you? Did you not get the candidate? You got candidates, but their resumes didn't qualify. They didn't interview well, whatever the reasoning may be. The other thing we'd like to hear from is when you're looking at candidates, and this is broad and we can narrow in, what is your ideal candidate? Meaning, you want to hire somebody in an entry-level position within the business umbrella. What would that candidate need to bring to the table and have in their resume that would garner a qualification and then would be a candidate of interest for an interview? And then we'll just go up the levels of where you're looking for people. The last thing I'll touch on, and I think Walgreens is our only big company online, so I'm not picking on you, Julie, I promise. Okay. Section 503 in the federal government is the Office of Federal Contractors. I'm not going to go through that whole thing, trust me. However, if you are a company or a scholastic institution that receive federal grants, and it can be, or not grants, excuse me, federal contracts that are 10,000 and above, there are regulations you have to meet. And if you do fall into that category, we'd like to have further discussions with you on how you're meeting it. If you're not because you're not trying, but can we help you find those candidates? Or obviously you should know the ramifications if you go for a protracted amount of time and don't meet that goal. The last thing, and I'll let Chris go through this, what we're going to be doing with meaning the coalition's data bank of resumes. And so I will hand it over to Mr. Chris.
Thanks, Paula. Just to tie off on one thing that Paula mentioned, as we think about the broader audience, I know not everybody who's invited the call is on, but there may be companies or individuals on the call where that information's not at their fingertips. And this is maybe a question for Trinaya. As you're thinking about those like quarterly conversations with folks and check-ins, do we want to invite them to have those partners inside the company that have those particulars, whether it's the data, whether it's the kind of strategic goals? How do we make sure? Because just knowing, having talked to some folks on here, you're great partners, but you're not always the people who have access to that information or are charged with being responsible for it. So just want to make sure we're thinking how to maximize that time that we're getting with our partners on here to make the time valuable for them and effective for everybody. And then in terms of job bank information, I know one of the things we've talked about is making sure that that we're on both sides of the house. We're trying to, one, improve the experience for prospective employers in terms of getting accurate, actionable information from candidates. Meaning, if you see a resume that is posted, that it has the most current information about that applicant in terms of experience, where they're working, if they're working, skills, education, etc., location. So there's some work being proposed to help improve the experience so that as an employer, you're getting good use of your time when you're pulling these applications up. And then on the other side, and this again can go back into both the quarterly conversations as well as just ongoing conversation, is how do we improve the frequency and the quality of job postings using the job board so that we can get you that talent pipeline that you're looking for to be able to grow that part of your of your business. And as part of that, are there things that can be improved? Are there things that create headwinds that prevent use of that the job board to be able to list those? Whether that's something technical about the site or something internal to your company, how do we help grease the skids, as it were, to make it as easy as possible and desirous as possible to be able to utilize that tool to increase applicants into your company? So again, I don't know that there's a lot of conversation about that today, but we're just trying to think of what are those things that potentially prevent increased applicant flow and success hiring into roles. And also what seems to be working and what needs to be protected, that's working today, or things that we need to lift up to ensure that you're getting quality applicants, and that our applicants are having a good experience on the other side of the fence as well.
Before I
That's
make
all.
a comment, Pierre, any thoughts or follow-up to what we discussed so far?
I have no thoughts or follow-ups as of right now. A lot of great information that was passed by both Paula and Chris. Outside of that, I think they're covering most of everything that I wanted to talk about.
Perfect. So, Chris, you brought up a really good point, right? So, in their meetings, we meet monthly during our workforce development volunteer meetings. And one of the things that we did bring up is the fact of like, within your organizations and your companies, right? If you're not the individual that's in charge of the hiring process or in charge of recruiting individuals with disabilities, during those quarterly meetings that we have, or those one-on-ones that we're going to be scheduling within the coming weeks, would love to be able to meet with those folks as well. Right. So when we're talking about really increasing and driving our numbers of individuals with limb loss and limb difference within a workforce, I think that recruitment piece of HR or talent acquisition, to come alongside us and see, the work that we're trying to do and the mission that we're trying to accomplish together, I think is very vital. So thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. Paula, any other follow-up thoughts?
Not particularly. I think it would be another thing that randomly came to my mind was verbiage in your announcements. Obviously, I'm not doubting that anyone is using anything other than perfectly legal and acceptable verbiage, but does it give the candidate with a disability a sense that you're really looking for this type of person? Or is it way down the line on the announcement in teeny tiny print that the average person wouldn't even see? Okay, that's another thought. And then the verbiage is actually used in your company culture as to how do they address certain individuals with specific types of disabilities? What is the cultural theme or cultural not perseverance, but perception of when someone's working with an individual with a disability? Do you have programs that pretty much encourage the idea that not one disability fits all kind of idea? Just things of that nature. I'm sure there are other things that are going to rumble through my head. Some of them may stick and some of them may not. The main line of this opening meeting of the year is to increase our ability to help all of you, for you to then in hand reciprocate. And if you know of other companies, other entities that you think we could value and they could value us, we strongly encourage you to let Trinaya or Maurice know, and so we can get to know them virtually and invite them into the council. We want to grow the council, but we can't knock on every door.
Any thoughts or comments from the council?
I have so many thoughts, but mainly what I'm wondering is a possibility is there someone we can meet with to kind of talk about the jobs that we have that we currently don't have internships for or apprenticeships, and kind of have some help how to design a program that would be attractive for folks that you work with? Because I feel like that's where we've been missing and we want to work on this year as a company.
For sure. We'll love
Yeah,
to.
150%, yes.
We'd love to set up a meeting, Julie, to discuss that further, and I'll definitely reach out. But yeah, would definitely love that for sure.
Perfect.
And keep in mind that internships, although we want it for our youth, absolutely, so they get the idea of the work culture, but internships can be offered to other individuals, especially if, in my case, limb loss is incurred well into adult life, and now they have to change career paths.
For sure. We have a lot of, adult and veteran participants that, are looking for like an on-the-job training, or they're looking for an internship because maybe they've been out of the workforce, for 10 or 15 years. And then now they're trying to figure out, okay, the field that I was doing 10 years ago, is it the right fit for me? So they're wanting to try something new to see if that's something that will work best for them. Or if not, maybe doing another internship or another on-the-job training. So
Yeah, and I think like a lot of ours are geared more towards entry level. I don't want to say lower positions, but we know like a lot of vets and like you mentioned, a lot of people who incur this later in life or mid-career or further career. So we're looking to develop for those roles.
And the other thing that we would be interested in is when you hire, regardless of the level, so entry and up, other than actually a top senior, what is your company doing to see that they actually have career growth? And if they're not performing at a level where there's career growth, why? Especially if it's a candidate that you found on or we recommended through the job board. But even if it isn't, sometimes it's just wasn't a good fit. Happens.
Come on. People say that for everything. So I hear that. And I guess you drill down and know, what was it really?
Right. The real reason was the accommodation was not applicable.
Exactly.
Or you were supposed to work at point something, and now they're saying, can you work 50 miles away and you don't have transportation? Right. I concur. Absolutely, Julie. Sometimes it really isn't. And I've been in situations with labor boards where I have to say, the person didn't show up to work. I mean, this is a problem. Okay. But if there is not career growth, why isn't there?
Right.
So we'd like to know about that. Mariana, on your end, and I know we discussed this, in the scholastic academic arena, I know by far your school is doing an amazing overall picture of individuals that attend the college with disabilities. But you do have great website and how to tour the campus and such. What we'd like to see, say in early spring, is actually having one or two of your students, especially with mobility disabilities, no matter what it is, let them really talk to our youth that are looking, I don't care if they're a freshman in high school or further along. What is it really like to negotiate your campus? What is it like to get up the hills? Is the ramp into building A? Yeah, there's a ramp, but it's, 2 blocks away kind of idea, or way in the back and it's always blocked. Things like that, and how they perceive themselves being engaged into the culture of the university. Anybody else that has any other universities that you know of that would like to do something like that, or even your work area? We'd love to hear from a student, an employee, to really define this is X, okay? Because it will help us, and you'd be surprised. You think everything is dandy, and then you realize, oh, it takes you 20 minutes to get up that hill. You don't see that on a daily basis.
Now, that's a really great point, Paula, that you brought up. One thing that I forgot to mention, one of the things that we're focusing on is virtual college tours and career tours, specifically for our youth participants within our workforce development program. So Mariana would love to be able to connect with you, or if you know someone specifically within the Disability Resource Center at UCLA that we could connect with. We would love to be able to have a webinar opportunity for our youth to be able to talk to, one or two students, like Paula said, who have disabilities, who have mobility issues, that could really talk about their experience at the academic level, as well as their experience, on campus. So would love any intros, or anyone that we could connect to, will be very much appreciated.
On that level too, Mariana, faculty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Faculty that have a disability, what is the student's perspective? You go into your class and you see your instructor in a wheelchair wearing a prosthesis. It's whatever the disability may be. Is there a rate of, oh, I don't want to be in so-and-so's class? Or is there a lot of hesitation about, can they really instruct me, so to speak? And then, of course, how they get in and around the campus.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I would love to touch base with you on that, and I could definitely get you in contact with somebody at that department, just because I only deal with the employment side, but I know that they work really hard to help our students, so I could definitely get you in touch with someone there.
Great. And Julie and anybody else, Matt, and Lisa and such, if you have hiring managers or upper level individuals that are willing to say where they fit into the overall picture of hiring, educating, quelling ill will, and also applauding great, actions by the overall department.
Yeah, I guess I just want to clarify, so I speak to it properly. Was there a specific question about that I can try to address? Or just generally speaking, what level of support and visibility do we have to?
Yeah, it's general support, food for thought. Maybe actually, now that the thought has been implanted, better observation. How many times have we walked past a sign 50 times a day, and then some lady says, there's a sign, and you're like, oh, you're right. So we don't always observe things.
No, absolutely.
I think the best, if you have to sell it, try this selling line: through my eyes. What Tanaya sees, even though we both have a limb loss or a limb difference, what she sees and what I see could be similar but different.
Absolutely. I will say one of the things that we're working on from my organization is we have a few different events that are occurring as we go into the spring to recruit for open full-time positions as well as internships. So Trinae and I talked towards the end of last year, and I hope to have more details about our internships as soon as next week, and want to work to promote those as much as possible with the coalition. So want to get directly in front of coalition and job seekers and students that might be interested, both for the internships as well as our full-time roles. I guess to answer some of the questions that were listed earlier, right now we do have 17 open positions, and they are spread out throughout 5 different domestic locations in the US. And we would love to have a high percentage of those be representative of participants in the coalition, or identify as having limb loss or disability of some kind. We are working with our outreach efforts. We're working closely with our affinity group that is related to disability awareness and disability allyship. And so I know for one or two of our upcoming in-person job fairs, we have a team member from that affinity group joining me and my team. So you do have the presence and the visibility and hopefully, make people more inclined to understand or realize that we are truly open and supportive of any job seekers that may have any of those additional needs for support. We do try to front load that type of language in our job posting, so it is towards the top whenever we do post positions, that if anybody, we are obviously equal employment opportunity employer, but we also have things in place for accommodations, both through the interview process as well as once people are hired. Right now we have 17 roles open, but we post positions on a rolling basis, so it's hard to predict this year. But in recent years, we typically hire around 100 folks.
And that's a reasonable prediction.
Yeah.
They said it's fluid, and we would never say, you said 100, you only did 93 or anything like that. Quick question, Matt, where is this recruitment event happening? I think you said it was internal, or?
This is actually with St. John's University in Queens, New York.
Okay.
One of our affinity group members was available to participate.
Perfect.
So yeah, that is taking
And
place.
that is open to the public, correct?
I'd have to check on their terms. I think it is. I don't know if it sometimes universities will have some limitations on current students or alumni.
Right.
But sometimes they open it up to the public as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Matt. And I look forward to, when the internships roll out next week, to see how we're able to connect, our participants, that are qualified specifically for that internship, to you to apply. Definitely look forward to that, as well as your job openings. So as far as the open job opportunities, would they just go to your career site on the IIE website, or?
Correct. Yeah, and I can put a link into it, but it's essentially iie.org/careers. And I think that is something, I think it may have been mentioned in the chat or in a prior comment. I would like to kind of revisit your job board and how we might be able to leverage that. So that's something maybe I can write to you about, Trinea, after this to see if there's anything else we can do to look into that and get our jobs up front and center. But yes, in the meantime, I can put the website into the chat, but it's iie.org and then careers.
Matt, other than a candidate applying directly, which is what they'd have to do no matter what, are you interested in receiving resumes from the candidate? Or can you give us some information that would help the candidate? I don't want anything, sway you hire this person kind of idea, but that they can create a better resume that would meet the qualification standards. Because most of the resumes in the job board right now are very general, as Chris said.
I see. I guess two main thoughts I would say is that, we are an organization where many of our roles do require a fair amount of writing and communication. And so I do find that many of our hiring managers still strongly prefer reading a cover letter.
Okay.
And so, taking a little bit of time to review the job that one is applying for and articulating in a cover letter why they're interested in the particular role, that can go a long way. Because sometimes hiring managers will, point out, oh, they have some great experience, but I'm not sure why they're interested in this role. And so sometimes it's the program or the mission of the organization that they are excited about. Sometimes it's the match of their skills and the responsibilities for the role, or a combination thereof. But I think kind of connecting the dots for the hiring managers in a cover letter can go a long way to help the hiring manager understand the motivation for them seeking the role. So I know that's fairly general advice, but I do know for our organization, they do really prefer to see those cover letters. I will say that there is a process when somebody's completing a profile or an application with us where they can indicate how they heard about the opportunity. And there's essentially a drop down, and it can be career fair, it can be LinkedIn, it could be a number of things, but you could select other, and then there's an open cell where they could type in they learned about it through the Amputee Coalition. And I have a small team of recruiters that work with me, and they're aware of our involvement in the employer council. And so that definitely helps us identify who's coming from the council and makes it so that if they're qualified for the role, we're more likely to get that in front of the hiring manager for them to at least review and consider them as an applicant for that role.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. That little bit of information hopefully will go a long way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. And we'll definitely be in touch for us to touch base on the job board platform and the opportunities and internships. Julie, I know you made a note about the job board as well. So when we have our individualized meeting, we could definitely discuss that further. Lisa or Anne, any thoughts or questions so far?
No, not at this time.
For me, Trinea, just, as an employer of people with disabilities, and I've shared, the website, we currently have roughly, I was looking while y'all were talking, about 56 openings. And, most of our positions are custodial and food service, but we have information technology, business administrative positions, call center positions. So we have a wide gamut. So really just need to know, other than sharing our website and sharing what we do and our process and how we go about working with people with disabilities, just really guidance from you on what you need. I'm happy to engage wherever you need me to, just need to know what you would like me to do. But we do have openings. Our mission is to hire people with disabilities. We have, several openings at the moment. We actually, if this is the same Ann Settle, which I think it is, with Ticket to Work, we actually work with them and meet regularly about our job openings, and happy to do that with anybody else that's interested. So just available when needed, and I'll drop the website in the chat again for those that might have missed it last time.
Thank you so much, Lisa. For sure, I'll be in touch. Those openings that you have currently, are they based within a certain geographical location? Are some of those also remote opportunities?
The information technology positions, those are all remote. So if you go, much like Matt was saying, if you go to the website and go to the careers page, same thing. The openings for information technology, you'll see will be have an asterisk and will note that they're remote. But our custodial and food service, because the majority of them are on military installations, they're geographical. So we're in 15 states and DC. And so they're all over the place. But they'll note that on the career page when they go to look for the opening, it will tell them the location, what state that it's located, or what military installation. It'll have something there to identify it.
Yeah, that sounds good. And then as far as like internships and on-the-job training opportunities that GCE offers for youth, are those mostly based in Florida? Is that through like a vocational rehab program?
Yeah, at the moment, so we have we have Project Search, all the traditional vocational rehabilitation services for youth and adults, and so that's kind of separate from our employment, piece of GCE. So of course we're doing all of those traditional VR services. As far as OJT opportunities within GCE, we currently do provide some of that with the local school districts that are in the states where we're located, and also with SkillBridge for veterans. So we're expanding that. That's sort of before I say too much about SkillBridge, we've done that, but we're expanding that. So right now it's somewhat limited, but our plan is to offer that in all of the states that we're in, because we do have a veteran initiative. And so that's kind of where we're probably meeting what you're referring to as OJT and internships, is with students who are still in high school and with veterans. So.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you so much for sharing. We'd love to learn more about the SkillBridge program, especially as we're building and increasing our veteran reach, and ensuring that, we're also assisting and providing resource to veterans with limb loss and limb difference. And kind of what we talked about, prior is that, we have folks that are kind of walking through different parts of life as far as ready to being in or job right away, or full-time or part-time job, versus, hey, let's start off on the job training or OJT or internship, and kind of working our way to transition to permanent employment. So I think that would be a great opportunity for our veterans, especially as you guys spanned out to different states. And any thoughts or questions? Or Julia, I know Julia, you just came into the call, but any thoughts or comments?
Not yet. I'm so sorry. I just got off that meeting. I told you was 3 hours. Make it 3.45.
No worries. Well, we're happy to have you on the call. Maurice, any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I just appreciate everybody's sharing of great information. And really, as we try and hone in, in 2025, the Employment Council, deliverables and just creating hubs of resource for community members. I just want to reiterate that you all are just a vital, key resource in how we approach the work that we do at the coalition. And how we want to show up for, community members. And so I think this is hiring and really focus on the disability space, and how organizations, how businesses, how college universities, how that post-secondary, entities show up in these spaces is important. It's paramount. And again, you all just play a critical role in that. So I just thank you, to our volunteers, to our organizations that show up, monthly to really breathe life into, this space and create advocacy and equity in this space, and just look forward to what is to come in 2025.
Thank you, Maurice. So before we close out our meeting for this afternoon, any final thoughts or comments? Paula, anything else that we missed or touch upon?
Yep, I think it was a very robust and informative meeting. I think our council members gave us a lot to think about and actions to take, such as helping Matt find candidates, as well with all of our other employers. And hopefully we put some thoughts in your heads.
For sure, for sure. So Mariana, did you have a question?
Yes, so I know you mentioned that for the meeting this year, you were gonna give 5 to 10 minutes to some employers to talk about what they have planned for this year. I could volunteer to go first. We have some amazing things planned for our veterans and our disability um outreach. So if I could go first for next month's meeting, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. We would love that.
Oh,
So-
the gauntlet has been thrown down and Mariana takes it.
So I will make sure, Mariana, to put you on the agenda for next month's meeting, for our February meeting. Yeah, would love to hear more
Sounds
about
good.
veteran programming and what you guys are doing at UCLA. So thank you so much for volunteering. I greatly appreciate
Mhm.
that. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I will give back everyone 12 minutes of their time. If anything comes up, you know how to reach me. But again, if I haven't reached out to you individually, keep an eye